Meditators, today's episode will break down how the pre-sale market works in a transparent and detailed way, which you probably have not seen before. We go on to talk about how our guest today, Devchart, also known as Andre, a prominent Twitter personality, made his first $1 million. He lays out the path in explicit detail, then goes on to explain 6 strategies that he'd use if he lost everything right now and had to make back that first 100k. Now, if you want to help me make my first 100k, remember to like and subscribe below. To stay one with the crypto markets, sign up and get 6 free Market Meditations newsletters a week. You'll find a link in the description below. A quick thanks to our partners Exodus and Nexo for making this podcast possible. There'll be more on them later. Meditators, welcome to another episode of the Market Meditations podcast. We've got a repeat guest here, my good friend from crypto Twitter, Devchart, aka Andre. How are you doing, Andre?
I'm doing pretty well. How about you? And thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you on, man. I'd be doing better if I sold the top, like you pretty much managed to. Dude, how do you position yourself for that?
So, for this one, I would say it's both a combination of luck and also like finding, seeing that the market was getting kind of overextended because, we kept getting, anytime we would actually hit, a resistance and get rejection. I think the first time we hit around 60k, then we dropped, and then we went back and we hit again 63k, and then we retraced back to the previous support of 48k. So after I saw all those bounce, and with also with CT sentiment, everybody was pretty much talking about super cycles, and like the pre-sale market was just being crazy, and like all the coins were just pumping too much, and it made me slightly uncomfortable, and I just decided, okay, this I might I might decide to take a lot of profit here, because we never know. So I'm not going to say that I perfectly knew that we were going to drop, so I just pretty much took a gamble. So I just waited until we reach I think the next time we hit 60k. As soon as I saw it drop below 55k, I just decided, okay, that's it. It's over. I'm selling the majority of my coins to USDT, and I left. Obviously, I left around like 15 to 20% in some altcoins that I'm not planning to sell. So, but besides that, and after that, the market just crashed, and I was like, okay, so I'm a low key genius, but if I have to be honest, it's also due to luck.
Damn, there's a lot I want to expand upon there. It's great of you to admit there's an element of luck to it, but we're playing a game of probabilities, so whenever we win, there's going to be some degree of luck involved for sure. You mentioned that you felt the market sentiment shifting and changing. What specifically do you mean by that? Can you give examples? And did your experience from 2017 perhaps helped you predict that sentiment or read that sentiment rather?
Yeah, I would say it's part of it, because, like, first of all, I'm pretty much a pessimistic trader, so I always look at the worst case scenario first, and I would just say it reminded me a lot of what it looked like around February, March 2018. And back then, we had all those, like multi-billionaires and all the big names in crypto saying that BTC was going to 100k, like BTC will go to 40k in June. Some were saying BTC would go to 100k in June and 200k by the end of 2018, So, and that's when the market just decided, to crash. And all those all that type of sentiment, I pretty much saw the same thing, because first, the biggest one was the Three Arrow Capital guy, Suzu, was talking about super cycle, and how I think if I remember correctly, he was mentioning Ethereum going to, was it 7,000 or 10,000, and BTC going to 100K. I don't really remember the specifics, but a lot of people were just thinking that that's it, we were just going to break. But the problem is we didn't. We all expected that BTC will have a retrace, a big one, but we didn't witness one. Like anytime we have a parabolic uptrend, there is always a pretty big retrace, and at this time we haven't witnessed that yet. So we're all expecting, and we're just waiting, when will that happen, when will that happen? And yeah, so I just saw all those. And one of the other aspect, like I said, is the pre-sale market, because at this time, every altcoin was just going way too parabolic.
Andre,
Even
what do you
coin.
mean by the pre-sale market for those of us in the listenership that wouldn't know?
So the pre-sale market is pretty much when some projects decide to launch a coin. So they just decide to reach out to a bunch of VCs and influencers, and in order to help them promote their project. So you will pretty much in terms of crypto Twitter experience, you will notice some projects that are being overhyped, and uh, there will be a lot of interest into those specific projects. So when they launch, it usually goes parabolic. Like we had a bunch of tokens like Option Room, Antimatter. Like I think there was Polka Market. There were a bunch of those projects that just went parabolic. And the problem is that as soon as those became went parabolic, we just started noticing an incredible amount of project that just wanted to launch just to take advantage of the market. So here's the problem though. Like at the end after a while, like when every project just decide to launch just in order to make money, after a while people the level of interest will just start to decrease. And that's when you start seeing tokens just crash and like lose a lot of value, or pre-sales starting to fail. So one of the main thing that I also noticed is that a few of the pre-sales that I was in started to not give that great return. So that was also one of the signs that kind of helped me decide, okay, maybe it's time to just just take profit and wait on the sideline and see what will happen.
What I have always appreciated about you, Andre, is how transparent you are in everything you do. We've seen a lot of heat come towards anyone who participates or touches these pre-sales, despite there being no real legality issues, just questionable moral issues sometimes with the way it's approached. Not too long ago, we saw get a lot of heat for it, whether just or unjust. There's mixing opinions, mixed opinions towards it. Why are you so open and transparent about it? And what's your stance on the morality of pre-sales?
Uh, so I would say I kind of understand, the anger that some people are seeing. But I think it might, some of it might be misplaced, but some of it completely makes sense. When you think about it, it's not really fair that some people get access to a specific project at a really low price and just make profit like really easily compared to other investors. But the problem is, like, this is part of the game. It doesn't only happen in crypto. It happens in the traditional market, especially even like even in for projects like before a project launches an IPO, the average investor cannot invest in that project. You see, it's reserved to like some specific investor. You have to prove that you're making, I think, $1 million, or I don't know the other criteria, but pretty much it is restricted to a specific type of investors. So this happens in every types of market, and I think the anger in here is that a lot of the influencers are actually hyping up those projects, and people think that they're dumping on them. So I would want to address this part. Like, y- my issue with the way pre-sales are being promoted is that some people, a lot of the influencers, just promote the project without thinking of the consequences. So if you are transparent and if you say, okay, hey, I'm actually part of this. I invested in this pre-sale. I got here's the just saying I invested in this pre-sale already kind of helps. People will still not like it. You will be called a shill. You will be called, like, a scammer. But at least you did that part, right? So that's the first part. The second part, I think, that was the most problematic, is when people look at a specific project and try to promote it and just say, hey, I'm buying here at this level. And this is one of the biggest issues with pre-sale, is when an influencer actually already or have the token, and they are already invested, and they're already 10x 20x on that specific project, but they're trying to push people to buy into some prices that are, kind of overextended. And I think that was part of the biggest problem, that was one of the main issue that people had with some of the recent people that were called out, like. And yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate. And one of the issues is also the market tanked. So if you look at all the Uniswap coins, the majority just dropped like 80 to 90%. So it's not specifically the pre-sales that were promoted. It's literally every coins in Uniswap. So, and I think that, with the anger of people losing a lot of money, just pretty much made it into like this really big issue where if you promoted a pre-sale, then yeah, you get in trouble.
Uh, really well put. That was one of my biggest issues with it as well. Uh, the entire market went down. Um, these coins, most of these pre-sales, yeah, the influencers made a bit more money, but every single one of them after launch went up significant amounts. And as long as you weren't shilling them after 50x continually while dumping onto your followers, it actually was quite a profitable move. I mean, I remember in 2017, there were several projects which I'm sure people got in far earlier than I did, but given the market conditions, it was extremely profitable to be a part of it. Now the market conditions have shifted. Newer projects can't ride that hype like they could just a month ago, really, or a couple months ago. And I'm sure the market conditions will come back for the previous one. And I'm sure everyone also appreciates your general transparency with regards to how you carry yourself, not dumping on your followers while openly talking about different projects you invest in. Now, to switch gears a bit, now that the market has shifted and the way to make money has changed as well, are you still trading? Are you building? I know you're working on some pretty incredible projects. How are you spending your time to best capitalize on the current market conditions?
Uh, so in this market, I haven't been trading a lot, to be honest. I've been playing a few of the moves. Like anytime we dropped close to 30K, I would try to get into a long position, and but it would mostly be a scalp position. So I would just sell it after just a few percent, just to not get bored. But it was usually always with a kind of a smaller position. So I will not say that I've been trading a lot since at least since we entered that specific range at the end of May. So now on the side, I'm still working on my project, Chart Alerts, and I'm also working on a brand new project. I cannot really release too much details because we're still building some prototypes. But yeah, just trying to build, try to remain busy, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
Oh, lovely. So New project, exciting new project coming out. When can we expect to hear more about it?
Hopefully, well, so due to the market conditions, we decided, to take a break and try to focus on, on other things. So I decided to go back and work more on chart alerts, but hopefully before the end of the year, we should have something ready. Pretty much that is the goal, at least.
And is this project going to be a crypto project? Is it going to be similar to chart alerts? Roughly, what can we expect?
It will be a crypto project. I would say it's a little more. It will be a little bigger than chart alerts. Chart alerts is mostly, although it is, a tool that helps crypto people, like, trade with crypto and actually save them time. This project will be more of a crypto project, and we are trying to build it on Solana at this moment. So yeah, so that's the main difference between the two projects.
Amazing. And we spoke about it last time as well with regards to chart alerts. It's a tool that whenever anyone asks me, how do I get notifications for what's going on in the markets with the coins I'm trading? How do I want to find out about it? One of the best places is Chart Alerts. It's a fantastic tool, and I think it's completely free as well if people trade under your link, correct?
And yes, and we are actually so currently the way it's free is because we are offering it the alert directly on Discord, but we will be launching in the next couple of weeks a new type of subscription for free alerts that will allow the user to actually create an account and log into the site and actually configure their own alerts, and it will also be free. So there will be a free subscription directly accessible from the platform.
Well, that's absolutely amazing. Looking forward to seeing developments there. One of the biggest problems in the crypto industry right now is that there are far too many applications and none of them are very user friendly for beginners. That's why we've partnered with Exodus. They're a desktop and mobile wallet that allow users to own their own private keys, navigate a very easy interface where they can view their portfolio, store multiple different cryptocurrencies, as well as exchange and earn interest on those cryptocurrencies. So if you're interested in checking them out, head over to exodus.com. That's EXODUS.com. As the crypto industry continues to mature, it's natural that more and more wealth building platforms will arise. The problem with many of these, however, is that they are often so complex that it disincentivizes people from using them. This is why I've partnered with Nexo, one of the top crypto lending platforms in the world. With over 1.5 million users and 15 billion assets under management, Nexo combines the yield earning features of crypto with the familiarity and ease of centralized finance. Nexo allows you to earn interest at a competitive rate on crypto and fiat. They also allow you to take out loans using crypto as collateral so that you have access to cash without needing to sell your investment. You can even trade directly on the web platform and mobile app in an intuitive and secure way. If you're looking to embark on the journey to financial freedom whilst minimizing time and frustration, I highly recommend you check them out by visiting nexo.io. That's nexo.io. Now, Andre, the main reason I invited you on, and I told you about this before you came on, is we're trying to incorporate a new segment into the show where we ask our guests how they made their first $100,000 in the markets. And I thought you'd be a perfect guest because I've been with you for a lot of the journey. And I'll start with the first question for this, which is, Andre, could you describe your journey and challenges to making your first 100K in the markets?
Okay. Uh, so this one will be interesting. So the first 100K that I made in the market was just due to pure luck, and also it was also due to me being early. So like I mentioned in our previous podcast, I joined in early to 2017. So I started buying BTC and Ethereum. And around the end of the year, which is around like September, October, November, that's when I decided to get into some of the other altcoins, discovering some of the most hyped or most overhyped altcoins that were being mentioned on crypto Facebook. So those were usually Cardano, TRX, Siacoin, and NEM. So I just decided to buy a few of those, and of course, like in the following months, they just went parabolic, and I ended up with a portfolio being uh, more than six figures. So at this time, you think that you're a freaking genius, and that it can just keep on going. So I was already thinking that hey, the next step is making a few million. But yeah, so and unfortunately, we all know how it ended in 2018. So thankfully, I managed to save a good amount of that profit. But I would say that this my first 100K was, I would say that it's mostly luck. So I would like to discuss how I made 100K while trading. So now fast forward like a year later. I just decided to. I was tired, of sitting on the sidelines and not knowing what I was doing. So I just decided to start to learn how to trade. So that was by the end of 2018. So I started trading with some small amounts, a few $100, things like that, just to get accustomed, because at the beginning I was doing paper trading, and I quickly discovered that paper trading, although it was helpful, it wasn't really giving you the experience of, like, the real trading experience. So I started trading with small amounts, and I just decided to put some, like, a few $1,000s, and just start trying to grow that amount. So after a few months, it took me, I think, if I remember correctly, around 7 months to grow that amount into 100K. And it was mostly while trading altcoins a spot on Binance. I never bothered with leverage because I actually tried leverage, but it was a disaster. Because yeah, I just decided that it wasn't for me, and I shouldn't really try to bother with that. Although with leverage, you could have maybe grown this in like a couple of weeks, and it took me a really long time to actually build that 100K. But the thing that, although it took me 7 months to build this slow process helped me understand a few things. First, the power of compounding profit. This is like probably the most underrated process that most people do not even want to think about, or do not even know about, and I think that if most people knew about it, they wouldn't bother with trying to go like 50x or 100x leverage on all their positions. The second thing that it really helped me understand was learning how to lose small. And I'm saying that because it is really easy to make a lot of money in crypto, but the most difficult part is actually keeping that money. And once you start learning that losing is not a losing shouldn't affect your overall trading performance, especially if you learn about things like invalidation zones, stop losses, things like that, and you actually manage to lose only a small amount each time. Then at the end of the day, your portfolio would just keep on growing. So I would say that those are like the two main things that I learned while going through, growing my account.
If there's one thing everyone can take away from this episode, it would be those two lessons over there: the power of just slowly compounding profits. And you put it so well. If you understand how powerful slow compounding gains are, you never even want to use leverage. It doesn't make too much sense, on top of keeping your losses small. What made you realize this? What triggered the shift in 2017? Say the first round where you got lucky, you didn't use this, then suddenly you did start using this. Where did you learn this? What triggered it? What was the key thing for it?
Uh, I think I just woke up one day and I had an epiphany. I was just like, okay, I should stop, because here's the main problem that most people go through, on crypto Twitter. And all the people that I now have a pretty large account with like 100,000 followers, but a few years ago I was one of those guys. I was pretty much, I had a random account and I wasn't really talking on Twitter. I was just following some of the larger accounts that I believed were, like the best trader ever, and I was mostly relying on their calls. And it didn't take me long to figure out that most people don't know what they're talking about, and that having a large amount of followers didn't mean anything. So I just one day decided, okay, I should just stop, you know, uh, relying on people and actually try to, because at the end of the day, it's your profit, it is your investment. Nobody can hold your hands, and you cannot blame other people um, on your bad investments. And I did that, in the past. I was like, oh yeah, I followed that one idiot and now I lost money, so I was angry at that person. But one day you start to realize, like, it's your own damn fault for following that, following a trade that you didn't understand anything about. So if I have to give like one advice to people, it is okay to follow other people's trade, but make sure you understand it, and you make sure that you can actually decide if you agree with it or if you disagree with it. And if you disagree with it, counter trade it. Just because someone with a large following decided that a coin is going that direction doesn't really mean that he knows what he's doing or that he's right. Even if they're good traders, follow your own instinct. And if you're wrong, that at least you actually learn something.
It's treating that counterparty, that Twitter account you're following, more as a data point that you unbiasedly evaluate rather than gospel or something you blindly follow. Uh, Great piece of advice again, which hopefully will help listeners out a lot. What were your next goals after you've made that first 100K? You've realized that you've somewhat got the hang of this trading thing. It doesn't feel like luck anymore. What were your next goals, and have you managed to reach them?
So let's say, after I made that first 100K, of course, like, I was at the same time, I at the same time that I was growing my account, I was sharing my trades, and I was also, building. At that time, I was building a lot of indicators, and I was just offering them. And I saw that a lot of people started following me for some reason. They liked some of the indicators and they liked some of the trades that I started doing. So I was like, hey, I would actually, what if I use this to grow my account? So, and it was just more of a fun project than anything. I didn't have any plan to use to do for with all this following. So, but my main goal at that time was like, okay, let's just try to. When you reach a goal, you just try to, you move the goalpost. So you're like, okay, so now I'll try to reach 500K or $1 million. So that was pretty much the next goal. And it took me, after I actually started trading, before I reached that $1 million goal, I saw that trading was really time consuming. And although I know a lot of, like, some of the really great traders on Twitter, they like to talk about, how they spend 15 hours, 18 hours a day looking at charts and things like that. And that I just decided that that wasn't for me. I do not enjoy spending time looking at charts and monitor, going through each one of the coins and watching them all day. So I just decided, hey, most of these things can be automated. So what if I built a tool that actually helped me monitor most of those coins? So that was the first prototype of chart alerts. It initially was just a bot that will help me, that will go through all the coins within a specific exchange and just alert me, when there are like some specific criteria, such as, hey, when let me know when a coin reaches a resistance point or a support, or if I'm looking at a specific moving average, like let me know when a coin actually bounced from that moving average and things like that. So once I started working with these type of automated tools, I even improved on my trading, because now I actually managed to allocate the right amount of time on only the coins that will actually uh, pretty much match with my trades. So helped me save a lot of time, and I just decided to continue working on using that tool. And then I just decided, hey, like, why not turn it into a business? And yeah, that's pretty much the story of chart alerts. And yeah, so that was my the next goal was just to build from that 100K trade. It turned into like building a company, which I ended up doing. We ended up building chart alerts. It started becoming pretty successful. So after that, I guess needed to come back to the other goal, which was reach $1 million. And yeah, so I managed to reach that last year. So thankfully, and now the next goal, I don't know. I guess reach 100 million. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I wouldn't mind actually. So we'll see how it goes.
Well, I've seen you grind all the way up, so I don't think any goal you set is unrealistic. It's just a matter of whether you want to put in that time or not, really, which does become the question because the higher up you go, once you go past that first 100K, a million's still a huge jump. There's so much more you can do at a million. Then you go past that million, you get to 10 mil, suddenly whole new world of possibilities has opened up. But then 10 to 20, does that much really change? 20 to 50, then 50 to 100? It really becomes a question of how far do you want to go, because the utility continually drops the higher you go.
Yep, I agree.
So, Andre, if you lost every penny you had right now, uh, and you had to start this entire journey over from zero, how would you make that first 100K as quickly as possible?
So there are two answers for this question. So one way to answer this will how I would personally make it with my current following and my current connections. And this unfortunately will not apply to everyone. There are some areas that only someone with a large following or someone who actually built the relationship with some people in the space, that and that will actually help you get ahead of the average investor. So things like, I will start just giving some example. Like, I could start with, let's say, investing in a lot of pre-sales. So that could easily get me to 100K. That will be one avenue that I would use. But like I said, this is not accessible to everyone, because you actually need to. There is a specific type of value that you need to add for to be considered for those types of pre-sales. One, you need to have either you need to have a lot of followings, so that you know the projects can ask you to help them promote. Second, you need to actually have enough connection that will interest those projects, so that you can pretty much introduce them to the right people. you know so that's another way. That will be the preferred way for me, to actually try to introduce some of those projects to to some VCs that could help them get into exchanges and things like that. So when it comes to pre-sales, that will be one way for me to reach that 100K back. The second way will be, now that my trading skills are a little better than what it was back in 2018. uh, I would use the leverage, trading with leverage. That will be the fastest way for me to reach 100K. And I'm not talking about going like 50x, 100x, but still using you just to trade normally with stop losses and things like that. And reach 100K, I would be able to reach that within. It wouldn't take me at least 7 months. That's what I'm saying. But honestly, I would not recommend this to new investors. If you're a new investor, I would honestly not recommend you to try to trade with leverage. That's a recipe for disaster, especially if you don't know what you're doing, and only it requires a specific skill set to be able to be constantly successful within a pretty long term uh, trading. And there are only a few people on Twitter that actually can trade with leverage, and I've been trading with leverage profitably for years. Like, so that's another way that I would be making 100K. One other way that I would, and this is probably the easiest, it would be to invest in some of those new Binance Smart Chain tokens. So this one also carries a lot of risk because the great majority of those are scams. But there are ways to actually make a lot of money, even with farming or with if you manage to invest in some of those Binance Smart Chain pre-sales. And I would like to distinguish between the Binance Smart Chain pre-sale and the pre-sale that I previously talked about. There are some pre-sales that are accessible to literally everyone, but there is a lot of competition. And those types of pre-sales, like people like me usually don't get into those because they're like there's a lot of competition, and it requires a lot of research to find them. So let's say you open Dex tool, or I don't know which charting tool you're using. You will always see on the top 10 ranking coins some really obscure like copy, like a Dogecoin copycat, and they're always the top gainers, and there's always a new coin every day. All those coins that you see on the top that are like, the top gainers of the day, or like the coins that newly launched and open at 10x, they're all doing pre-sales. It's just that you don't hear about those. Nobody mentioned them on crypto Twitter. But I've met a lot of people that actually they're working 60 to 70 hours a week trying to find those specific pre-sales. And they go through GitHubs, they go through Telegram channels. They're trying to find those projects before they launch so that they could get access to those specific pre-sales. So this is one way to actually make a lot of money, but this one has a lot of competition, and it's not easy, but it is probably the most profitable way for you to reach 100K. But also it also carries the risk. A lot of those, like I said, are also scams. So so don't invest your life savings on those. I guess that's the only thing that I would say. Just a few $100 here and there, and you will be able to reach 100K pretty easily using that specific method. Another and the last method will be what I did, to grow my account initially, which is trading altcoin. But unfortunately, this one requires a lot of patience that a lot of people don't have, especially if you are starting with a really small amount, because when you think about it, a lot of people trade with a few $100, $1,000. So trying to grow that $100, $1,000 into 100x with spot trading, it's not easy. It might take you years, and a lot of people don't have that patience, unfortunately. So those are some of the few ways that I think you could reach 100K portfolio.
I was expecting one strategy, not six, Andre. Blowing it out, that was incredible. Thank you for sharing those, um, as well as acknowledging with a lot of awareness how some of them may not be accessible to people who don't have the same audience or network that you do. I just add in that, I mean, anyone can build that. If you really want to, find something you're good at, or share the journey of you becoming good at something within the crypto Twitter community, contribute to the space, and you can build yourself a following. You really don't need hundreds of thousands of followers. You just need a loyal audience that trusts you because you consistently deliver value. And then if you find great projects you want to work with, you can do the same as well. So just wanted to add that to the pretty incredible answer to that question. And I mean, we've been talking about money so much. Do you consider yourself financially free now?
Honestly, if we were looking at numbers in the bank, yes, I would say that I'm mostly financially free, but there is like still one really bad aspect that I'm working on, is that, like I said, I'm a pessimistic person. So unfortunately, in my mindset, I don't know what is enough. Like, I know that some people just have a number, say, hey, if I reach $1 million, that's it, I'm retiring, or $10 million, or things like that. But me, I'm looking at this, I'm like, okay, if I reach this amount, how can I make it last until I go to I retire? And what if something, like, we have a major crash or something, like, how will I not lose everything? So because of that, that's why I'm still grinding, and I'm like, okay, I need to just, it's not enough, I need to keep on keep on trying to get more income stream, trying to get more money. And yeah, so but the goal is just to be financially free. So, and unfortunately, that's I still don't know what will be the correct number that will be enough for me. That's I think that's the problem. And I would like to also point out that I did a Twitter poll, and not long ago, I think it was like a few months ago, and I was asking the same question that you just asked me, and the answers varied from some people saying they needed 200,000 and they would completely retire, to some people who were living in Singapore, for example, saying that even $50,000 a month is not enough for them. So it that's why I think it's a really difficult question, and it also depends on where you live and what are your personal goals.
People were saying $50,000 a month isn't enough for them to retire.
$50,000 a month, it wasn't enough for them to live in Singapore.
Wow.
Yep. And it wasn't one person; it was multiple people agreeing with that statement.
Yeah, maybe people have different tastes to me. I'm personally quite minimalistic, don't have that much of a desire to flex watches or fancy cars, so I wouldn't go for the. I can't even imagine needing 50,000 a month. But yeah, to each their own. The definition and utility needed to acquire happiness will be different from person to person from that money. It sounds like you've really enjoyed your journey and are still loving the game, grinding up to maybe 10 mil next, maybe 100 mil, wherever the journey takes you. Andre, thank you so much for your time. This has been a really lovely episode. I always enjoy talking with you. And I know I'll have you back on here in 6 months to tell us how you made your first 100 mil.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure, man. Is there anything you'd like to leave our listeners with before we close out this episode?
Uh, I always try to come up with one advice that I could give to either new traders or new investors, and I do have one that might be, a lot of people might disagree with, and or even consider controversial, but I think a lot of people need to reassess the concept of hodling. So, and what I mean by that is that most of the people who lost money in this market was because they decided to hodl and to hold an asset while the market was downtrending, and they just lost 90% of their portfolio because of that. When you think of the word hodling, anytime you mention that word, people will use an example saying, such as, hey, if you bought BTC even at 19,000 in 2018, you would still be in profit today, which is true. But what people fail to realize is that the majority of investors, at least on crypto Twitter or on TikTok or on Reddit, they are not buying BTC, Ethereum, XRP, or maybe XRP, but they are looking for the 100x, 1000x coin. You know, especially when you have a really small portfolio and you read stories such as Shiba Inu doing, like, I don't know, it was like 100,000 or 1,000,000% since the low. So they're all looking for that specific magic lottery coin, and they will usually go and buy a really obscure altcoin. And during a bull market, you will see a lot of gains. You will see a 10x, a 100x for sure. But when the market start downtrending, those coins will be the first to crash 90%, 99%. And the past few weeks have really shown us that. I know a lot of people that had like 6 figures, 7 figures portfolio holding some Uniswap shit coins, and they just lost 90% of their portfolio just holding, because most of the coins, Uniswap coins, crash 70%, 80%, 90%. So my advice will be, hodling is fine, but learn to understand trends, and always set a goal. Like, don't just hold for the sake of holding. Always have a goal. Like, if a coin reached that amount, I'm selling, or if a coin dropped to that specific amount, I'm calling it quit. If you actually apply those two things that I just mentioned, you will be fine.
Fantastic, much needed piece of advice for people right now who might be holding on to those final parts of coins which are never going to bounce. 2017 was the same. You were just saying the pre-sale markets, people start launching coins just for the sake of launching coins, not to launch real businesses, and those are the ones that will go to zero and really never come back. Andre, terrific episode. Meditators, that is everything from us. I'll see you next time for another episode of the Market Meditations podcast. You know, our goal at Market Meditations is to help our listeners build wealth. And this episode with Devchart, I can confidently say, will help a lot of people build wealth. There's a lot of useful information and alpha that can not only be useful in a timeless manner, but also in a very timely manner with the current market conditions. Now, you know, we also have our newsletter, Market Meditations, that you can subscribe to for free to stay up to date with exactly what's going on in the markets, what strategies I'm using or my guests share with me that I think will be useful for people to build wealth. You can find that at 𝐏𝐸𝐺.substack.com. If you enjoyed this conversation, make sure to also check out my episode with Crypto Messiah. He shared some really amazing tips as well on how to build wealth through crypto.